5 nutrition and fitness lies which are absolutely sabotaging your results. Whether you're looking to build fat, build muscle, lose fat, get in shape in general, achieve sustainable results with your health and fitness goals, I guarantee you at least one of these are holding you back, right? So look, in no particular order, right? Number 1 is low carb diet is the best approach for weight loss, right? So this is false. We see this hammered into us online that, carbs are going to make you fat and like insulin and turns into fat. And no, there's no evidence to back that up. It doesn't work like that. And actually there's research to show it's very clear right now. Look, if low carb diet is helping you stay in a calorie deficit or carnivore or keto, great. That takes me to my next point, right? What they find is the best diet, right? Wait for this one. The best diet is the one you can stick to. And they've done loads of studies on this, right? So they look over the space of a year. And what they find is the diet that you can adhere to and be more consistent with. In other words, the diet that actually feels the easiest for you as an individual, because there's so much variance, is going to be the best diet. Now, if we had to choose a top contender, though, in terms of diets, right? Based on evidence. Now, there hasn't been quite as much research done on things like the carnivore diet and that, right? But there's still been a decent amount done, by the way. The Mediterranean diet. Now, the Mediterranean diet is actually just a whole food diet, right? It's not complicated. It's whole foods, plenty of vegetables, lean proteins, especially fish. There's healthy fats like olive oil, nuts. There's, a moderate amount of carbohydrates, which mainly comes from vegetables. Maybe they have a little bit of rice, I'm not sure. But it's mainly vegetables where they get their carbohydrates from. It's minimal ultra-processed foods. That's the main thing, right? A whole food diet, if you can minimize ultra-processed foods, it's much easier to stay in a calorie deficit or keep the weight off you've lost or stick to a specific way of eating. Because as soon as you have too many ultra-processed foods, they hijack your brain and you will fall off track, right? So, yeah, obviously improve in insulin sensitivity, better long-term compliance with things like the Mediterranean diet, which is just a whole food diet, really. It's not restrictive. Culturally flexible and sustainable. And obviously, 12 months, like I say, 12 months, minimal difference. Actually, what I want to say is there's minimal difference, right? There's virtually no difference in terms of fat loss and stuff as well over 12 months, regardless of which diet you're following, providing you're in a calorie deficit, right? And you're controlling your calories and you're hitting protein, which blunts your appetite and helps you stay in a calorie deficit for longer, then there's minimal difference really when it comes to different diets. So that's a big myth, and that's something that sabotages a lot of people because people try and go from one extreme to another. So they go, right, I'm going to cut carbs, I'm going to go low carb, I'm going to eliminate all of these carbohydrates that I eat on a regular basis, and then they fall off, right? Because it's overly restrictive and they can't stick to it. So not all carbohydrates are treated equally as well. It always comes back to the same thing. It's really not rocket science, right? Because we get so much information. People get confused with nutrition. It's this simple. Ultra-processed foods designed to make you overeat. If you can minimize ultra-processed food, so a maximum of, say, 10% of your diet, I would say, some people say 20%. If you really want to be healthy long-term and you really want to transform your relationship with food, you want to build up to having no more than 10% ultra-processed foods. And generally foods with more than one ingredient in them, generally, right, is an ultra-processed food. Not things like Greek yogurt or maybe some good quality whey protein. There's a few exceptions to the rule, but generally anything more than anything that's not a single ingredient food, let's just say that's ultra-processed foods, just for argument's sake, right? Minimize that, and you'll be able to stay in shape long-term, right? So low-carb diet is not the best approach for weight loss. There's no diet, really. There's not even like a high-carb diet as well. If they actually compared two groups as well. They had one doing really high carbohydrates. Can't remember how much they were having. One really low carbohydrates. They did this, I think it was only over 12 weeks, but they controlled for calories and protein. Same thing happened, same amount of fat loss, right? So it's what can you adhere to? Now, a lot of people do find it easier. They actually don't, though. That's the thing. I think, I don't even know if it's most people, but I do know myself, for example, right? If I wanted to get into a deficit, I could eat like really low carbs, so I could just have like keto, and I could get into a deficit quick, and I would probably, to be honest, this is bullshit. I'm actually bullshitting myself here because the last few times I've tried this, right, it's impacted my sleep and everything else. My sleep was terrible. So if anything impacts my sleep, I'm not going to stick to it, right? I did it keto for one day, literally, last time I tried it. I did it last year, right, for a longer period of time, and obviously I've done a month here, a month there of strict carnivore, but nowadays, it just wrecks my sleep the last 2 times I've done it, right? So a lot of people being in a calorie deficit and really low carbs is actually, it can be a recipe for disaster for a lot of people, because they're stripping away carbohydrates, which is something they were used to having, and which can be really helpful if you're having clean carbohydrates from single ingredient foods when you're in a deficit, and for performance in the gym, or for recovery and all those kind of things, and even for sleep for a lot of people. Not everyone's different. So that's the way it goes. That's a big lie, right? Low carb is not necessarily the best approach for weight loss. If it's worked for you, though, I want to be clear here. I'm all for it. You know, I've had the likes of Ken Berry on my podcast and everything else, and I gotta be clear here. I'm not shooting people down for what they're doing. I am all for what's working for you, right? If you can not overeat and you feel great eating carnivore, low carb, keto, great. A lot of people feel good eating paleo. A lot of people feel good having high carbs, right? I have some clients, or loads of people I've coached, or even myself. I don't have high carbs. I have moderate carbohydrates, right? Where I eat, what do I eat? On average around about 150. Lately, I'm eating more, actually. I've been having, what I've started doing over the last few weeks, I've been carb cycling, right? So I've been having high carbs on my lifting days, because I've ramped up my lifting volume now. So I'm going from full body training to 2 upper bodies and 2 leg sessions. So it's more volume. So I've been having high carbs, like on those days, high carbs for my standards, and then having slightly lower carbs on the days in between. So I'm actually having more carbohydrates, and I actually look better, right? It's not about looking. I'm not doing it for look. I'm doing it for performance and to repair my body, and for me to get the most out of my lifting. And yeah, it can actually help a little bit, being more anabolic as well when you bump carbs up, when you're lifting weights slightly. It's kind of splitting hairs, but I feel a lot better when I have carbohydrates versus when I have none, right? So yeah, that's just a little lie there for you. The other one is diet culture, right? Number 2 is diet culture. So with diets, for most people, right, a specific diet, whatever that may be, whatever type of diet that is, whether it's the Atkins diet, the low carb diet, the vegan diet, the paleo, whatever, we keep going down the list. For most people, diets work until they don't work, right? So a lot of the times, this is going to trigger a lot of people, right? But most of the time, I'm just speaking to the masses here, right? Following a diet, you've already lost, right? And why I say that is because if you can be on a diet, you can be off a diet. That's what my good client, one of my clients I've had for like 5 years, right? He said on a call before, and it just stuck with me. It's very simple, but if you're on a diet, you can be off a diet. Simple as that. So when you're off the diet, what happens then? That's the question you got to ask yourself. Do I overeat? Do I go back to old behaviors and hit the big shiny red off button and go all or nothing and then come back to the diet on the Monday? Is that what's happening for you? If that's happening all the time, obviously that's not the right diet for you, right? If every now and then, though, you're following a certain way of eating, and I'm all for that. I'm all for having flexibility and giving yourself permission to not be perfect, right? Because consistency always wins over perfection, and it has to feel like you can stick to the approach you're doing, right? But, if sometimes you eat in a certain diet and then you come off it, and you go straight back to it, and it's worked for you for years, for a number of years. I'm not talking weeks and months. It doesn't count. If it's worked for you for a number of years, I'd say 2 years or more, because most people gain all the weight back they lost within 1 to 2 years, right? So for 2 years or more, you've been following a specific diet. I don't care what that diet is. You're thriving. You have your bloods checked. Your health markers are all good. You're metabolically healthy. You've got lean. You've stayed lean. You're feeling incredible. Great. And then every now and then you have a little whop. Fine. That's awesome, right? But for most people, right, diets are a terrible approach, right? If you're saying to yourself, I'm on a diet, then that's restricting yourself straight away, right? So I'm on this diet. This is the plan I'm on. Oh, I might go off the plan. Oh, damn, I fell off the plan. And the problem is, I was just saying this. One of my clients I've had for a year, she was saying on one of our calls, our call on Friday to one of my new clients, I've only had her for 2 weeks as of recording this podcast. I asked my long-standing client, I said to her, look, what is it that what would you say to yourself, the advice to yourself a year ago, based on what you've achieved, right? You lost 20 pounds, kept it off, transformed the lifestyle, everything, right? She goes, don't beat yourself up. Simple as that, right? And we all do it. But the problem is with diets, when you come off it, you beat yourself up and you can't handle the decline. And you overeat it. You basically sabotage. And that's what most people do all the time. And it's annoying. I'm really passionate about this. And that's why I think that's a terrible lie, that you should follow any specific diet. And this is the only diet you should follow to lose fat, right? Because no, you got to work with what's best for you. And if you're eating, you have to hit a protein target. That has to happen, right? You have to hit a certain amount of protein. You have to be eating, moderate to high protein, depending on what your goal is, for you to be able to keep the weight off. That's number one, right? Because that blunts your appetite. You're burning calories. That has a high thermic effect. So you don't actually, only about 30% of the calories, about 30% of the calories that you have from protein are actually burnt whilst you're eating it. You don't actually absorb it, right? Your body doesn't take it on. And then you have to eat mainly whole foods. Like I said, 90% whole foods minimum. And, whole food, real food is designed, we evolved hunting animals and eating whatever nature gave us, essentially, right? And how beautiful Mother Nature is, it naturally keeps us satiated. We have built-in signals, right, from our brain, which is millions of years old, right, which tell us when we're full when we eat these foods, right? Like, for example, you have, even if, right, we can go with, right, I'm going to go and get like a apple juice from the store, right? I'm going to get an apple juice. It's got a few different things in there, added things in there. It's not an apple, right? We all know that. You drink it, okay? What's it doing? It's giving you a massive blood sugar spike, and you haven't got the fiber either. You're not chewing the food, right? So it's going to be completely different. And obviously it's going to have other stuff in there which are designed for what? Sell product, which means they want you to consume as much as possible. So it's going to be designed in one way or another for you to have more and more of it. It's going to have more sugar in there, etc. Versus just eating an apple, different story, right? Completely different story, right? So the big difference is food quality here, right? Food quality is everything. So diet culture, diets work until they don't work for most people. That being said, like I just said, if you're following a certain way of eating, it's worked for you for 2 years or more, you're a minority of people, and I'm really happy for you, right? So if you're getting triggered right now, I'm not speaking to you, all right? So I'm speaking to the masses. So number 3, so overtraining. Oh, actually, no, let's stay on nutrition, right? So number 3, we'll go with calorie deficit, right? You hear people online, right? I hate it. It annoys the shit out of me. People online just saying, calorie deficit, just move more and eat less. And you have these people who shame people, right? I hate those people, man. They shame people because they're not in a deficit. Oh, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, calorie deficit is simple. I mean, that's why you're not losing weight, because you're not in a deficit. It's such a terror. It's so ineffective speaking like that. I can't even express it in words. The main thing is calorie deficit and macros and calories. That's not the answer, right? That's surface level, right? It's numbers, right? Numbers don't mean shit, right? The worst shape I was in, which wasn't, I just want to be clear, it wasn't bad shape, but for my standards, was when I was tracking everything meticulously, right? Now, tracking helps you lose weight when you do it right, but that doesn't mean you're going to be in great shape. It's the behaviors which dictate, how much fat you can lose and how healthy you are. So if I'm tracking like I was meticulously, calories, macros, protein, fats, carbs, all got it dialed in, right? But then on the weekend, I was hitting that big shiny red off button, boy, and I was eating like an absolute asshole. What was happening? Worst shape I've been in. So calorie deficit is not the answer. Obviously, yes, you need to be in a calorie deficit to lose weight. We all know that. But that's not the answer. Eating less and moving more. If that was the answer, everyone would be in shape. But actually, even now, as I say this, even with AI and all the technology we've got, and even with the GLP-1s like Ozempic, on a global scale, people are still getting fatter and sicker. Okay? So that's not the answer. So what we need to look at, instead of that lie of just eat less, move more, just be in a calorie deficit, follow these calories and macros, is simple. Why are you not there? Why are you out of shape? And the shame and bullshit that you see people talking about online, we need to look at the behaviors. We need to look at, why am I eating these foods time and time again, right? When I know they're making me overeat, why do I keep going back to them? Why am I getting home from work and just clearing out the snack drawer and just like consuming it, or, having wine every night and sabotaging? Right? Why am I doing that? Why on the weekends, or when I go on holiday, or when I have a special occasion, why am I taking one step forward, 2 steps back, and I'm going back to these foods which are designed to make me overeat? Ask yourself that question. Why are you doing it, right? You know the answer. A lot of the times it can be environment. It could be, okay, because I'm spending too much time with people that eat a lot, right? It's not always complicated. We always overcome. Now, don't get me wrong. It is very complicated, actually, when it comes to emotional eating and binge eating and a relationship with food and all that. It is actually quite complex on a deeper level. But for you to actually change this, it's actually quite simple, right? You need to be around the right people who have higher standards. And that's why, our community, and when we get on these calls with clients, they push each other to achieve more because they're around people with higher standards than themselves. Obviously, I'm one of them that they look up to, of course. But that's just an example, right? And I'm not perfect, by the way. But that's one thing. The other thing is, food quality, right? Do I have a strategy? Am I being overly restrictive in the week? Is this why? Because I'm not having enough complete meals. It's a big thing. People don't eat enough complete meals, enough real food, and they're actually over-restricted in the week. And then your body just wants to find homeostasis. It's just going to go, okay, feed me. And if you haven't got a strategy, you're not hitting a protein target. You're not eating good quality foods, right? And being really mindful of getting enough nourishment in your body, right? then you will just slip time and time again and just keep chasing your tail, right? So look, calorie deficit is not as simple as that. It's the behaviors. It's also how foods make you feel, right? So a lot of people, all they value food for, and I don't get me wrong, I love every single meal I eat. Every single meal I eat, I love it. It tastes great, right? So give you an example of what I had today. It doesn't mean anything to you because what I eat is not what you should eat, right? Because everyone's different. I can get away with way more calories. My first meal, I actually didn't eat today because I had a lot of work to do. I like to eat a bit earlier than this. But today I actually didn't eat till like 2:30, right? Nowadays, that's a rarity, right? Normally I'll eat, 12 or even earlier sometimes, right? Because I've been training harder. I'm a bit more hungry. And I just have 2 meals, right? So like 2 p.m., 2:30 p.m. actually today. About 2 p.m., I had a bunch of beef mince. I had like probably about 800 grams of beef mince, avocado, and my girlfriend roasted some pumpkin. Epic. Pumpkin I can get away with, potatoes I can't. They just make me fart, ruin my gut. So I had these pumpkins, which are delicious, right? That was a one-off. I never get the chance to have those things. We don't really cook much of those things. I normally just have like my fats and proteins for that first. And I had a bit of avocado as well. And then my last meal then, I just mixed whey protein with yogurt and I had a bunch of fruit, right? That was my last meal. That's it, done. Why am I saying that? Because I lost my trail of thought a bit there, right? The reason I'm saying that is because I enjoy the foods that I eat, right? So I love the taste of those foods, right? I love it. I don't get bored of those foods. So that's what you got to look at. But that's just one value of food. I know the meals that I ate today fuel me. They give me energy. Like that last meal, do I need to have loads of fruit and yogurt and whey protein? No, I could just have like meat, rice, and vegetables. I don't need to have that, right? But it nourishes me. It's actually a decent amount of nutrients in that. It's good. I get my carb hit. I enjoy it. I hit enough protein, and I'm getting loads of nutrients as well from the Greek yogurt, and it's just great. I enjoy it, right? So I eat it for more than just the value of how it tastes, right? It fuels my body for my training session tomorrow. So I'm in a training session in the morning, have my carbs this evening, my fruit, and I'll be strong as hell in the morning, right? I'll feel good if I get a good sleep, of course, right? Which is why I got these funky looking glasses on, by the way, because it's getting late here. I wasn't going to wear them, right? But I was just like, nah, I'm not sacrificing sleep. I love you guys, right? But I'm not sacrificing sleep, right? I knew you would wonder what the hell is going on here. I knew it's probably put you off, but there we go. Anyway, so that's that. So that's the third one. Calorie deficit is not the answer, right? You got to look at the behaviors around food, why you eat, how foods make you feel, versus just, the hedonistic value of food, right? So that's the behavior piece. Last two. So we've got overtraining, right? So this is a big one. The no days off, right? Don't take any days off, you pussy. You know what I mean? Why are you not going to the gym today? No. You have to be strategic with the way you train. You have to listen to your body. Most people overtrain, right? They go all out, 10 to the dozen. And my client was just saying this now, this testimonial he did, right? He was saying, like, I used to typically, I would find something, I would go 0 to 100 straight away, and then I would fall off because it wasn't sustainable, right? Someone would get in the way with work, or I would burn out, right? And ultimately, you're going against your body's signals by doing that. And most people either A, don't train consistently, or B, they overtrain when they do train, or C, they do both. They go all out training too hard, and then they lose consistency, right? That's actually the most common one, right? So overtraining, no days off, going against your body signals, even if you're not aware of it. I have to coach people through this. This is the biggest thing, right? It's knowing your body and having awareness. Like, people think it's really simple and straightforward with training. Very complex. People always say, it's 70% that diet. No, training is very, very nuanced from person to person in terms of how much stress each individual can adapt to in the gym. You want to adapt to what you're doing in the gym, right? In other words, it's an adaptation. You want to create, for example, a strength adaptation, right? You go to the gym, you lift heavy. The goal is to get stronger and build muscle. You want to adapt to that and get stronger, right? That's the goal, and then you build muscle as a side effect. You don't want to be stuck in the recovery trap, right? You're either adapting to a stimulus or you're recovering from it, right? You're not doing both at the same time. So you go to the gym, you cause a bunch of inflammation, right, on your body. And then your body's recovering. Muscle protein synthesis, you repair, you get good sleep, then your body, after it's recovered, by the way, this doesn't happen at the same time, then it adapts. And it goes, okay, now we've recovered, we've replenished, we've repaired the muscle fibers, now we're good to go again, and then you go again, and then you feel a little bit stronger. That's how it should be, right? It's a strength adaptation. Most people screw that up. They're stuck in the recovery trap, they're all or nothing, and they haven't got a strategy with their training based on their unique body type, which is another thing as well. Everyone's got a different body type. It blows my mind how even me and clients, they respond differently, even to different rep ranges. So some clients respond better to like I do, generally to like the 8 to 10 rep range. That's kind of the sweet spot for me. I tend to look fuller, bigger, more muscular, and I build a bit better on that rep range. Every one you build, but I find I respond a little bit better with that one, the slow reps, 8 to 10. Whereas a lot of people, they respond better having like lower reps than that, like, 4 to 6 rep range or 6 to 8, lifting hard and heavy, right? So everyone's different. But look, overtraining, no days off, motivation, it's all bullshit. You have to be strategic. Training consistently is number one. We all don't know that. But number two is getting adequate recovery and having a game plan to follow that's going to get you results and get you to adapt and not be stuck in the recovery trap. So the last one is cardio, right? This is a lie. Using cardio to shred and burn fat. It's ineffective for fat loss, cardio, right? Now, sure, if you ran on the treadmill for a few weeks and didn't eat nothing, you're going to lose fat, of course. Long term, no. Your body adapts, metabolism adapts, and essentially it goes, okay, we're burning more calories manually. In other words, we're running or we're doing something which is manual. We're going to adapt and we're going to get more efficient with calories over time. In other words, your metabolism slows down. Whereas lifting weights does the opposite, right? Lifting weights, your body automatically burns more calories just to keep muscle on your body, and just the afterburn after training, for example, right? You have an afterburn, your metabolism's elevated. So that's a big lie, and I hate that lie. Now, cardio, I'm not anti-cardio, right? It can be a good tool to use for your health and longevity, of course. VO2 max, doing the VO2 max test when you wear the mask, run on the treadmill, right? The higher that is, the longer you live. Same as the strength test with resistance training. The better your grip strength, the longer you live. But actually, even the guy, my mate Stu, I've had on the podcast, right? He's a health nut. They call him a health nut, right? He's friends with Paul Saladino, right? And he's got like one of the best podcasts in the world, and one of the biggest as well. It's pretty big. He's 53 now. VO2 max off the charts. There's no cardio. Lifts weights, walks, cycles. There's a bit of cycling, not intense. I've always argued this, right? You get most of the benefits of cardio from strength training properly. I've tracked my heart rate. It's through the roof, particularly when I lift heavy, when I lift lower reps and heavier weights, my heart rate goes up even higher, right? So you're getting your heart rate up for sustained periods. Cardio is obviously going to top that, doing a bit of cardio, of course. If you want to do sprints and stuff, it's going to get up a little bit more. But the problem with that is cardio, it's not good for burning fat, right? Lifting weights. They did a study on it, right? They did a study and they got groups together. I think it was a 12-week study. One group, they were having, they monitored diet, cardio, and weights. They were focusing on diet, cardio, and weights. Whatever they were doing, the diet, probably high protein, calorie deficit, whatever. The other group were doing cardio and diet, and then the other group were doing weights and diet, right? The group which lost the most fat over that 12 weeks was weights and diet, right? Second place, I'm not sure. I think it was cardio, weights, and diet was second place, and then last place was just cardio and diet. So it goes to show, right? Lifting weights is the key for fat loss long term, right? Because it speeds your metabolism up. Muscle tissue is expensive, costs your body more calories and all that stuff. Cardio is great for your health, though, right? All the cardio I do is just walking, basically. I do loads of walking. I lift weights with intention. Like, I'm fit, right? I can run down the beach. I'm fit. I'm not like I used to do half marathons and stuff. Obviously, I'm not running half marathons right now, right? I'd have to train for that. But yeah, it's a myth. Cardio can be good for health, but it's a terrible approach for fat loss, right? Especially if you want to keep the fat off, right? All right, wrap this up now with a waiting list, right? So a couple of things. Firstly, I want to give away my reverse diet guide as well, because so many people have had great results. They've been messaging me saying they've had insane results in terms of building muscle and losing fat and actually overcoming cravings and stuff, even within 4 weeks. So get the reverse dieting guide if you want to achieve sustainable fat loss. It's in the show notes. And also I'm doing this WhatsApp waiting list, right? So looking to create a WhatsApp group, and the first 20 people who jump on the list, basically I'm kickstarting this private WhatsApp group, right? So if you want to test it out, I'm looking for a few testers. So I'm only opening up for the first 20 people. So I'm going to create like a little waiting list, and it'll be insane value, behind the scene insights, fat loss tips. It's just going to be like insane value for free for the first 20 people. So if you're keen, hit the link also in the show notes and drop your email and number in there, and I'll send you an invite as soon as we kickstart this group. And like I said, the reverse dieting guide's in there as well. Also, whatever video, I always think this through, whatever video I put here on this end screen, right? If I've remembered to do it, I hope I have. Make sure you watch it, right? Because it's going to be linked to everything we just talked about.